Super. Well, now let's get some more fun going. We would be so happy, Nancy Clanton. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn to Kelly to introduce you, but we're so looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Kelly, say a few words about Nancy, if you would.
Absolutely. There are few lighting designers in the country who are more successful, more widely known, and more respected than Nancy Clanton of Clanton Associates, based in Boulder, I guess, or is it Denver?
It's Boulder.
It is Boulder.
Yeah, I live in Vail, but we have two offices.
Okay, so. and you know, Nancy has been a supporter of DarkSky processes for a very long time. She served a stint on the board of directors of the IDA. I would say roughly 20 years ago at this point. She came to the widespread attention here in the Northeast. There is an annual star party, the grandfather of them all, really, in Springfield, Vermont, called Stellafane, that's held every year. And it's also the site of one of the state's main prisons, if not the main prison. And they were overhauling their lighting. Well, you can imagine what prison lighting next to a site for dark sky observing, that those two are not going to mix. Nancy did the lighting design for that to the huzzas of not only the amateur astronomy community, but actually the public safety community. They were surprised that it came out as well as it did. And she's just gone on from there to really not only do lighting projects, as she pointed out to those who heard her when she first came on. She only does those that involve, dark sky lighting principles, but also she is doing research on lighting that will affect us all, and she's going to talk a little bit about that today. Most of you know that there is a vigorous debate going on the best color temperature for lighting, the best levels for lighting in highway situations. She's worked a lot with a lighting engineer named Ron Gibbons, and she's going to talk about some of the research that she's done that and what that shows in terms of what's required for safe driving and what that means for dark sky initiative. So Nancy, please, we're so thrilled to have you here today, and take it away.
Well, thank you. Boy, do I feel honored. And Kelly, thank you so much, for the introduction. Stellafane and Springfield Prison, I still use that as the best example of how you don't like something and you can see better. I mean, it's basically looking at different principles. But I'm going to share my screen right now and see if you all see it. Let's see, I have to share. And can you see that?
We see that fine.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, that's good.
Like Kelly said, I've been involved very fortunately in some great research. And this research has been kind of at the base, it's been quoted in support of a higher color temperature, 4,000 K. And I think you'll hear that over and over. So I want to show you the entire results. Instead of grabbing one little piece out of the research, there's a lot more to the story. And so I'm going to go through that quickly. We actually have looked at 4 different cities. And let's see if I can advance that slide. I should be able to. Don't you love this? When things don't always work.
Try clicking in your presentation directly first.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Basically what we did is to look at, we started in Anchorage, Alaska, because they had a very innovative mayor who said, I'd like to switch to LED lighting. Now, this was before any city had even thought about LED. In fact, Ron Gibbons said that this was the first project to look at it. But if you talk to Anchorage, they're always the first. They go, hey, lower 48, we don't care what you do. We're going to be the first. And we went up there and we were so surprised about our initial results because we just showed some LED lighting, and it wasn't super high color temperature or anything compared to the high pressure sodium. And no matter, we're putting in half the wattage or less, and people liked it better. And we're going, what? Something's very strange here. So because I'm not a real university researcher. We brought in Virginia Tech Transportation Institute, who does all the research for Federal Highway Administration, and Dr. Ron Gibbons. And he came up and we redid the test and looked at it. But there was snow on the ground. And we were worried that the contrast between our objects in the snow was too great, that we're going, okay, this is great, but where else can we do it? So then we went to San Diego, no snow at all. And we repeated the research and came up with very, very similar results. But our problem was, we had closed off the road, that the lights from the law enforcement, we were worried had interfered with the research. So then San Jose said, come to us and we will fund the research. And we went on a remote section and repeated it. And guess what? Very, very similar results. And we're going, wow. And at that time, I would say the grandmother of all research was in Seattle. We took the lessons learned from the other three cities and you keep improving on it. It's kind of like, oh, we need more research in this area. And it was extremely well funded. And we got the public support for doing this. So I'm going to talk about Seattle more than anything else. And our research questions were really getting kind of, from the general public, not only their subjective valuation, but also the visibility, where we had a vehicle where people were riding in it and punching the little button every time that they saw a topic. But we just went, just kind of under general conditions, these were our research questions. And, and also Seattle said, hey, let's add wet pavement because we're usually wet. We just don't want to look under dry conditions. Now, full disclosure, we were paid $500 million for this research. So it was very, very intensive. And we were able to bring in the best of the best to do it. Here was the questions that we had asked. And these questions are from Peter Boyce. He has agreed to let us use these questions. He did it with LRC way back. We have given this questionnaire out probably to thousands of participants, and you all are welcome to use it. The important thing is question number 9 is a negative question. I cannot tell the colors of things. And Peter said, for any researcher, you need not only positive questions, you need negative. So you are all welcome to do this and to use this questionnaire. And the very first question is, do you feel safe walking here during the day? Because if they say no, then of course they're never going to feel safe at night. So that's kind of a throw out, your whole answers. If you say no to that, strongly, disagree. But this was the research thing. And again, all the cities used exactly the same questionnaire. The objective data, again, was taken by Virginia Tech, and they basically put objects on the road in different colors, and they knew exactly their GPS location. So you'd get in the car as a observer. You weren't driving, and they would drive the car in a closed off situation. The roads were closed at 35 miles per hour. The reason for that speed, because you are out running your headlights, safe stopping distance, that the headlights no longer can pick up something and you can stop. So we wanted to go at that higher speed. So that's number 1 point. It's not at lower speeds, okay? All of our data is for higher speeds. And when you push a button and say, I see an object, the car would record how far away you were from that object and also take a picture of it or a luminance mapping of everything. So we could see what the light level was, what the reflectance was. We gathered all the data and we brought lots of people through it. Here are the objects we used, which have been used in many, many other cases. Okay, here is a question for everyone. Which object do you think is the easiest to see? out of these, no matter what. What do you think, Kelly?
Yellow.
You got it. You got it. We had to actually take yellow out of our whole data. And Kelly, if you could put yourself on mute because I'm getting an echo. But yellow, we would see in several sequences down. So guess who went out and bought a yellow raincoat? If you want to be safe at night, we're yellow and you can see it just per this test. So we had to take out all our yellow objects. Here was where we did the street in Seattle, and it was in a urban area because in San Jose was non-urban. It was out in the middle of nowhere. We realized we're missing that urban ambiance. And we did 3,500K LED, 4,000. Then we kept the 400 watt HPS because that was consistent in every single one of our tests. We wanted that consistency between them. Then we did something really weird. We did an asymmetric LED, which kind of is, we took the street light and we blocked off the part that goes back to the driver. And it's kind of like asymmetric, an extension of headlights. It's the best way I can describe it. And we put that in just to see if you could see things better if you didn't have glare coming back to the driver. Then we did a 5,000K LED and then the 250 watt high pressure sodium, which was another standard, typical lighting situation among everything. Now, very important to note, we were never dimming the 400 watt high pressure sodium or the 250 watt high pressure sodium. They always stayed at 100% light level. But the others in San Jose, Anchorage, and San Diego, we had gone from 100% light level down to 50%. And as researchers know, we were on the plateau and we wanted to be able to get off and take that drop off the plateau. So we said, let's add 25% light level. And we all kind of go, oh yeah, visibility is going to change once you go that low. And so that was the other big change to this. Oh, wow, did people show up for this? We had 332 participants in this survey. They were all people of Seattle. We were able to organize them into groups, into 6 different test groups. No one saw the same, 2 different situations. All of them only saw one condition. So that's important. They either saw all the lights at 100%, they saw the lights at 50% light level, or the lights at 25%. And that was for dry. And then wet, we repeated it. So we had 2 different nights. And how do we wet the roads? Thank you, Seattle Public Works. They came out and used their water trucks and wet the roads for us because it didn't rain that night, which is good. And how do we get so many people to fill it out? It's because we paid them. We gave them $50 little Visa gift cards. So they used it on their social media as fundraisers for school or for churches or whatever. And it was highly successful. We also organized people equally in a group, gender and age. So we kind of filled up group 1 and they said, well, pick out your preferred ones, but you're on wait listed or whatever. So we were very, very balanced in the participants. And it worked out really well. Paying people really works. Well, subjectively, remember, they stood in each sequence of the lighting, the different types of lighting, and answered it subjectively. Do you feel, and I'm just showing you one of the situations, is it safe? Please notice there was no statistical difference between 100% light level and 25% light level. And this is a message I feel people are missing. They keep focusing in on the color temperature, but throughout, no statistical difference in light level. And that to me is huge. We probably are overlighting our streets. If I blend all the data together, because I'm trying to, if I were to give a full report on this, it would take a couple hours. But if we blended everything together on all the different light levels and all the color temperatures, one thing I want you to know is, even starting up, we're at only 105 watt LED versus a 250 watt high pressure sodium. And in the mean detection difference, at different light levels, there's not that much difference. The high pressure sodium was the big loser, using double the energy, and the detection distance did not come out at all. If you look at this though, light level plays less of a thing. So now my engineering scientific mind is going, and Kelly, Tim, I bet you know what the formula for contrast is, right? C equals the absolute value of luminance of the background minus luminance of the object divided by luminance of the background. Bang. Okay, did I get that right? You can zero out lighting level out of that formula if we look at true contrast. And so that's my dream, is that we begin to come up with different things. The other thing we noticed, uniformity did not improve detection. So the more uniform your streets, the harder it was to see objects. Let's go back to the prison. In the olden days, what were the prison uniforms? Black, white, black, white. Why? So that you would have contrast in what the prisoners wore. If we have too uniform of a street, there's no difference as you look down the street of objects. We need to see them in light and dark. And that's where Ron Gibbons and I are going, wow, the IES RP8, the lighting levels, they keep saying you need to be uniform, need to be uniform. We're going, no, you don't need to be uniform. Therefore, we could get by with less equipment, and it's a whole different thing. It's the contrast against the background. And then the positive contrast definitely increased if you had a darker background. Again, are we overlighting our streets? But if we have more positive contrast, it would work. And we're looking at that now with crosswalks. Instead of putting the light right at the crosswalk, hits the top of the head, put the light 6 to 8 feet before the crosswalk between the oncoming traffic and the person going across. All of a sudden, you get really ideal vertical luminance on the person by just placement of the pole. So we're making those recommendations, and Colorado Department of Transportation now has in different cities, you need to have your pole not right on top of someone's head. Little changes like that can make a huge difference. So here is contrast of seeing everybody at 100% light output. Now, the black arrow means you see things in silhouette. The object is in silhouette. The white arrow means it's in positive contrast. At 100% light output, basically most of the objects are in silhouette. Now let's go to 25%. All of a sudden, we start seeing a lot more positive contrast on the object versus the background. And this makes sense to me. So it's a whole different way of looking at lighting on streets. Highlight level doesn't work. You need a little bit of balance of color. That's important. Uniformity actually hurts you. And it's the placement of the poles when you know you've got a pedestrian and a vehicle interaction. Those are kind of the takeaway points for the whole thing. So the Seattle study results are adaptive lighting. That's what we call when we're dimming the lighting. And I would say maybe dimming it for time of day, seasonal, because in Seattle, Anchorage, things are so overlighted. So he put in a dimming system that would adjust seasonally. If I've got snow there, I don't need it. Now, here is the one thing, number 3 is what everyone keeps pointing to. That 4100K came out on top in the performance. It did. But and I've been challenging Tim Brothers to help me with the algorithm of lighting level, of distribution, and of spectral distribution, spectral content on SkyGlow. What's that algorithm look like? How important it is to get something, and I know we've been pushing a lot of amber light, but we don't have color contrast there. What if we lowered all the lighting levels? We had excellent distribution, low glare, low uplight, but could we get by with a 3000 or 2700K that would actually have some color differential? So this, I think, is a challenge to be accepted into, most communities. So let's now skip to, let's assume this is your city. How do you gather the data for your city? And we have done this for Denver, Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, San Jose. We've gone out and actually GIS every single streetlight, and it doesn't take that much effort. We did Denver, or I would say our consultant did Denver in 4 days. They were able to go GIS every single streetlight, and they were able to identify the streetlights, taking a picture of them, and we put them at this huge spreadsheet to show exactly what the streetlight was and what and where it was located. So you know the location. And by the way, cities a lot of time are paying for streetlights that are on private property. So we're able to help them and say, wow, you're paying for about 10% of streetlights that aren't really your responsibility. So we're able to help them with the whole inventory of everything. But you go and go, okay, this is where we are. How can we change them to a more reliable? And this is a 1-for-1. The other thing that we did, please work with law enforcement. I cannot stress that enough. Get them part of the stakeholder meetings, because they're going to keep saying, more light, we need more light, don't do it. My favorite story about law enforcement was we were in Westminster, Colorado, and we went out and did the same survey with stakeholders, city council, everyone. And we started and stopped in the law enforcement parking lot. And we had them fill out the survey, Peter Boyce's survey. And then we went and looked at samples. We set up samples of street light throughout the city. They came back to the parking lot and we said, could you fill out the survey again? They go, well, we already did it. I go, come on, humor me. Just do it one more time. And they did. And they filled out identical. The law enforcement officers did as to what it was before. I went, interesting. We lowered the light down to 25% light level. They went, no, you didn't. And I took the dimmer and went up. They went, we had no idea. To us, this is our parking lot, and we had no idea you had lowered it. So this is where you get them behind you. And also in Pueblo, Colorado and Anchorage, Alaska, when we are working with it, they both asked us, how easy is this for us to shoot out the lights, the LED lights? I go, why would you want to shoot them out? Well, if we have an incident in a house, we want our position to be dark. So we want all the lights out. We got to shoot them out. I said, oh, it's kind of hard. You got to hit the driver. It's not going to work real well. So I showed them, I said, take your phone and press this button, turn off all lights within 1,000 feet of my location. They did it. All the lights went off and they went, how fast can we get this in? So they were our biggest advocates for control systems and for changing the lighting because the glare was less. Again, you think law enforcement is going to do safety. The new word is reassurance. And that's what all the research is now being done is on pedestrian reassurance through Steve Photius in Sheffield University in the UK. fabulous work on it. And with the law enforcement, find out from them, where are your areas of concern in a city? Let's prioritize so that if a city changes out lighting, they go here first. So this was at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. And the manager of the Broadmoor, who's there at the other side of the crosswalk, said, my wait staff are getting almost hit every day, yet there's plenty of light in the crosswalk. So I told him to wear all white. His wife came and she's wearing all black. Do you see her next to the person? She's right there. And what do you think the wait staff are wearing when they walk across? So approach lighting just a little bit is extremely important. Again, back to contrast. Here are things that we really believe. Low backlight, uplighting glare. Yes, we can do it with 2700K and 3000K. Controls. Let's lower our lighting level. And then again, do wayfinding lighting, making sure you don't have to put light into the rivers. You can actually design the lighting to protect the natural resources. And seasonal changes, oh my gosh. When it snows out, you don't need as much light. Put in your control systems that will do that. And then please light only the path and not the street. And with today's solid state technology, we can do this. Glenn Heidmiller on the phone, he knows how to do this. I mean, he's a master at it. We just light what we need. And I love this photo because it's wintertime. Notice this light and its type 2 distribution. You can see the distribution in the winter. This one light right there is doing along the path. So you can really see on the effectiveness of the type of lighting. And then back to visibility base, this is work we've done at Grand Canyon National Park, where everything is stone step. Yeah, they've got a bollard at the top and the bottom, but when we start looking at it and we're taking luminance mapping, you cannot see the stairs. What if we had a light just kind of going and showing and using shadows of the risers to be able to see? So again, going back to a whole luminance mapping and adaptive lighting, which is changing and getting each light to individually light, is extremely important. And these are the way our city should be. Every single street light automatically should have, we call it the 7-pin receptacle where the photocell goes in, because that eventually, you only need 3 pins for that receptacle. The other 4 pins, you can use dimming controls with it, or you could do occupancy sensor. They're there, or spectral tuning. Whatever you want to do, this needs to be standard on every single light. And then again, putting in different control systems. Even though this is typical control systems, a wireless system, I would suggest get rid of the gateway. We have had so much problems in trying to get that gateway to work, especially in Seattle. A lot of interference from AT&T towers. Just take it directly down and talk to every single light. This is the easiest to commission, especially in smaller communities. Okay, I got a few more minutes. This is my dream. My dream is our cell phones will actually be the lighting device and the controller. What if a car could never hit a cell phone? Think of the pedestrian deaths and the cyclist deaths that could be avoided if we move to this type of system. And you can see every single light and where they are. Just to look at, even this is what's happening at Virginia Tech. They're calling it just-in-time lighting. Lighting is off until the car comes. Now, this is a typical, maybe a higher color temperature LED. We can also change the color temperature of it and get it warmer. Do spectral tuning depending on seasonal effects or whether the wildlife, because I'm so glad you have someone on your call that knows wildlife implications. We've been working with Travis Loncourt in our master plans for cities. He has helped us in how to protect the wildlife and all of that. And yes, we're going more and more Wi-Fi and putting 5G and all that. My dream is, let's go to Li-Fi. Let's get rid of the microwave stuff and go straight to light, being able to do it. And it can do it at very low. You can pick a nanometer, a red light, just a small glow, and it will give probably 5,000 times faster internet than anything else. And let's be microgrid. Let's start putting in solar power, whether it's in the pole or on the top, and putting in looping, inductive looping, so that we can charge our electric vehicles as we drive. One more step, make all our pavement photovoltaic. They're doing it in Europe. That way we have a closed loop system. We can control the lighting. No one's there, lights go off. And here's my challenge to Tim Brothers. I would love to develop a laser diode light with different spectrum nanometers. We worked with Lick Observatory outside of San Jose, and they identified the natural phenomena of light and what is naturally made. What if our street lighting system, all of our lighting system, match the natural phenomena to have minimal impact on the environment? And so this is my dream. And we can do it with laser lighting and be double the efficacy. LEDs, my dream is in about 5 years from now, like we looked at compact fluorescence, now we'll go, hey, remember when we did LED lighting? Where we could go straight to laser diodes and really hand select exactly what we want. So that's my dream. That's it. I hope I did it within the time limit.
Wow, Nancy, thank you so much. Nancy, I'm going to watch that about 10 more times in a row. I'm so glad that we're recording it. There is nothing in there that is not useful. Everything in there is useful for so many projects that we have here in Massachusetts, here in Northampton. So thank you. That was just fantastic. I would love to just take one or two questions if there are any. So please, let's see. Gail, I see you have a hand up, and others. I'm going to stop the, just give me 1 second. I want, maybe somebody can help me understand how best to do this. I want to stop highlighting Nancy so we can see everybody here. I'm going to go more and,
you go to the gallery.
Yeah, I got it.
Go to the view. Yeah.
No,
view.
I had you spotlighted, and now that's gone. So now everybody can go to view gallery, exactly. And I'll see hands up. Please raise your hand in Zoom, starting with Gail.
So my question is, I found it so helpful and relevant to what's going on, decisions that are going to have to be made on Nantucket soon, that I'm wondering if this is going to be published. Do you have an article coming out, something that we can give to the town officials on Nantucket?
The Seattle study is published. It has not been peer reviewed, okay, warning, but the NEA, Northwestern Energy Efficiency Alliance, has a full report. You just have to sign into their website so they know that you downloaded it. It's also on research, I don't know, what's that research web that people say, did she really do this research and everything? Tim, you probably know what that is. It's there too. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Yes, and it's there. It's huge. It goes into great depth on way beyond, like I said, the 41K. And I apologize, everyone keeps focusing on that. I go, there's so much more in the report. Don't do that.
But a follow-up question, if I could. So that sounds like a very scientific, detailed study. Is there an executive summary or something for lay people to understand?
Sounds like I've got something more on my to-do list.
Well, that would be very helpful for us who, I mean, I was trying to take notes and understand it all, but I think for town officials who don't even know the little I know would be have even a harder time understanding it.
You bet. Okay,
Let's take a
on my
question.
to-do list.
Let's take a question from Glenn.
Hi, for Nancy. So when you said 100% output, 50% output, what was 100%? Was that IES recommendations for that street? Okay, fine. Okay.
It was.
So
IES recommendations, thank you.
So
with
100% was
RPA.
100% was appropriately lighted according to IES, and then everything else was below that. Okay.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
down to
And-
25%.
And if I just a quick comment, I mean, we're talking the interesting thing being reminded again about the color contrast issues, and thinking about our push to use 2200K streetlights, like I saw in Pepperell, and that was very interesting. But the color rendition on those is not great. It's down in the 60 or 70 CRI kind of whatever. And so I guess I was thinking, well, for roadway, who cares? But maybe it does matter. And maybe you could get by with less lumens at a higher color temperature. Maybe this is what you're talking to Tim trying to figure out, right?
I want that algorithm.
Yeah.
And Glenn, help us with it.
I'm not the guy.
Because I can take this research and it's like, we need this algorithm so badly, because I would love to focus on safety and dark skies. I do feel it's a win-win that we can do it together.
Just a comment on the 2200K. Stay tuned. We're researching it now, and we're trying to at least answer the question with the Sky Glow, hopefully later this year or early next year. And then the visibility issue, we've gotten positive feedback, but keep in mind that we're generally below 35 miles per hour, so it's generally slow and not a lot of traffic.
Then it doesn't matter. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but in RP8, if you're below, well, they're being conservative, 30 miles an hour, there's no need warranting for street light. Then it's public. And what we're doing, we're finding pretty soon vehicles aren't going to need street lighting when we go to autonomous. We feel we're lighting the streets for the last time. Everything's going to be pushed to pedestrian. And that's what we're working on in the IES document, RP43. We're pushing everything to pedestrian-oriented lighting. And that's what I hope your communities do. And Ron Gibbons said, we don't need to light our city streets anymore. He said, what a waste. What a waste of lighting. And that's from a researcher.
All in favor of stopping street lighting? Okay, Nancy, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind, we have many more questions than we have time to field right now. Can I suggest that people who still have questions, put them in the chat? And Nancy, if you wouldn't mind answering them in the chat so we can all see those answers while we move on to our next illustrious speaker. Is that okay with you, Nancy? Great, thank you so much.